In John chapter 4, Jesus has a conversation with a woman. This is the conversation that comes after his conversation with a man. We may see in his conversation with this woman from Samaria that there is a contrast with the man, Nicodemus. So here we have a female. Here she is unnamed. Here she is a person of low repute or from a different caste or class. Nicodemus came by night. She is present in full sunlight, midday, and yet she is ashamed. She doesn't give in or lead on to that she has been married before. She just says, I have no husband. So there is shame in this woman. We find in this woman a story of how God loved the world. And what we're realizing is that the world that God loves includes people that we may not think belong to those that need to receive a legitimate offer. It could be gender-based, it could be class-based, but think about our cities and our world with people we may begin by writing off as not being legitimate receivers of this good news that God loved the world. Yes, the world includes female, includes those that have shameful stories. And in this case, Jesus is now using an imagery of water and says to her, if you knew this gift of God, verse 10, and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. Jesus describes himself as a gift, that this is unique here, that it's God giving grace through Jesus Christ. And this dialogue with the Samaritan woman is one example again of increasing light. She begins by calling him one name, and the Samaritan woman said to him, you are a Jew and I am a Samaritan. And then in verse 11, the one translation says, sir. And then what we see is in verse 15 again, the same word, sir. And then in verse 19, sir. So we see this increasing in this translation with sir does not show the growth, but in the end, this word Lord, this idea, the woman said, I know that the Messiah called Christ is coming. And then Jesus declared, I, the one speaking to you, I am he. And the woman then leaves her water jar in verse 28 and goes back to her town and says to the people, come and see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah? And they came out of the town and made their way toward him. Jesus has shared God's love, his love for a Samaritan woman, and it made the disciples confused. The disciples in verse 31 urged him, eat something, Rabbi. But he said, I have food to eat that you know nothing about. And they are wondering, could someone else has brought him food? And then Jesus says, my food is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. And what Jesus did there was, again, giving people a chance to come and follow the living God. And he uses this imagery of water and allowing the woman to understand that she doesn't have to thirst again. This imagery that allows for a Samaritan woman to be included in the plans of God loving the world. So here we see that a woman who believes in Jesus, could this be the Messiah? She starts acting on that little knowledge she has and goes out and invites the townspeople to come and see. If you wonder if you're effective in letting the love of God known in your city, I think one way to measure it would be to see, are the people who have tasted the little that they have understood inviting others to come and see? Come and see, says the lady. Come and see someone who's told me everything I've ever done. That now we see the power of the gospel also, in that the shame that which she wanted to be hidden, and that which everybody else in the town may have known about, it's now redeemed. So the Samaritan woman has a redeemed history, or sees someone who can redeem that history. This insight of the Samaritan woman also tells us that the goal of the gospel in a city or in the world is not just to get converts, but to get worshipers. Because Jesus says to the woman, believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. True worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. And these are the kind of people God seeks. God seeks true worshipers in our cities and through our endeavors. And could we say that the food we eat is to try to make our environments become worshipers of the true and living God, worshiping God in spirit and in truth?